Yes, I'm going to speak tonight about what I think could possibly be our country's gravest danger. Now, I'm going to refer to some notes here because I have just a little bit too much information here and I can't remember it all. But so I apologize for taking my eyes off of the camera there. But I'd like to know where the outrage has gone in America. That people are not up in arms about what I'm going to speak about tonight. I've heard a few people bring it up, they gloss it over, and they downplay it. And I don't believe that this should be downplayed. This is a very, very serious threat to America. I think that we could be in danger of losing our democracy as we see it right now because of what's going on. Now, I'm talking, of course, about unlimited and undisclosed campaign contributions. Because of the Supreme Court creating the situation, I heard someone refer to it as a loophole. Well, that's not even close to approaching what this should be called. The Supreme Court has created a situation where anyone can contribute as much money as they want into the political process to control the vote and the advertising. Now, obviously, at first glance, this favors Republicans because Republicans at this point are more favored and are favorites of the corporations, and they work hand in hand. The corporations have most of the money now, and they're going to be the ones that would be then supporting the Republicans. Now, this might actually pay off for them in the short run, but I think that if people think about this, Republicans and Democrats, they're going to realize that we have a grave threat facing us. And if we want to lose control of our electoral process, that we would only allow this to happen if we're willing to have that happen. Now, the justices that sided with this were 5 justices who were appointed by Republican presidents: Anthony Kennedy, John Roberts, Anthony Scalia, Clarence Thomas, and Samuel Alito. 2 were appointed by Reagan, 3 by Bush. Now, the dissenting opinion was given by John Paul Stevens. He actually was the only dissenting opinion that was appointed by a Republican. He was appointed by Gerald Ford. Now, these were back in the days when the Republicans acted like Republicans, and there was a lot of bipartisanship, and there was a lot of people walking across the aisle working together to make our nation the way it should be. We don't have that anymore, and now it's just absolutely butting heads, the Republicans and the Democrats. Anyway, this law, which allowed this, which overturned many other provisions which we'd had before, and which had somewhat protected us up to that point as far as unlimited campaign contributions, this was passed. The Supreme Court ruled on this in January 21st of 2010. John Paul Stevens retired about 5 months later on June the 29th of 2010. So it is interesting that he, 5 months after this law was come into effect, that he retired. The other 3 justices that were dissenting against it were Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Stephen Breyer, both who were appointed by William Clinton, and Sonia Sotomayor, who was appointed by President Obama just recently. In his dissenting opinion, John Paul Stevens wrote that this ruling may, quote, undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation, unquote. He also wrote that the court's opinion is a rejection of the common sense of the American people, who have recognized a need to prevent corporations from undermining self-government since the founding, and who have fought the distinctive corrupting potential of corporate electioneering since the days of Theodore Roosevelt. Now, this was in his dissenting opinion. Now, it's interesting that he would quote Theodore Roosevelt and talk about the days of Theodore Roosevelt. I recently wrote a novel called The State of the Union, and it's a novel. It's fiction, but it has a lot of real things going on in it. And it's a military political thriller. One of the generals who is talking to his other generals in a big meeting quotes Teddy Roosevelt, and he's talking about the state of the situation the way it is right now. And he says, remember what Teddy Roosevelt said, men. Quote, the thought of modern industry in the hands of Christian charity is a dream worth dreaming. The thought of industry in the hands of paganism is a nightmare beyond imagining. Now, by ruling these measures, which takes the lid off of any campaign contributions and overruling the old measures which used to restrict these things, the courts have potentially unleashed billions and trillions of dollars, which can influence our political situation here, which it will control the politics in the country as we know it. There's not a doubt about it. People who are spending too much time watching television, watching nothing but ads, and they're not paying attention, and they're going to be swayed. They can even be brainwashed by a media blitz and a media campaign that can only be fueled by millions and billions and trillions of dollars. And when these companies stand to influence and use their influence to control votes and to control the people who they get elected, then they stand to make even more money. So it's a good bet for them to spend their money to get their own men in. These people are going to be handpicked, they're going to be cherry-picked, and they're going to be put into office, and they're going to be nothing more than puppets who are going to be doing the bidding of the people who are controlling them with the money. Now, by comparison, the 2008 election, in total, they spent about $1.5 billion. Now, this is an incredible amount of money to be spending on a political election. However, the amount of money which will be spent in the future because of this law being passed will dwarf $1.5 billion. And the money that will be funneled in will be coming from the ultra wealthy. The major funds won't be coming from the common man or the middle class or anything else. And these people are going to absolutely control the votes. And it's absolutely scary. Now I'll tell you that this ruling will undoubtedly, in the short run, and it should, if it doesn't create puppets, it will create a third party. And they'll put whoever they want up there as a third party. People have been saying we need a third party for a long time. Well, this will make it. And it's either going to be called the corporate party or the special interest party, because they will be puppets and they will be controlled by the money. And if anybody's going to contest this, they're absolutely foolish, because this is a given that this can be done. Now, this might address some of the corporate issues that are happening, which are obviously not what America wants. We don't want the big money. We don't want the ultra rich or the ultra corporations, the mega giant corporations controlling everything. We don't want that, because they're going to be doing it just in their own special interest to make more profits. And so if this is one aspect of it, which is critical, and it's right now, and it's happening right now. The super PACs that are out there right now have funneled an unbelievable amount of money into, and percentage-wise, much more for the Republican candidate for president right now than Barack Obama's. Now, Barack Obama has been doing as much fundraising as he can, and he's getting caught up and passed by the super PACs, because they're going to throw so much money at this election that it's going to be incredible. And it may very well work. And in the short run, the Republicans might get a Republican president in there this time, because they have so much money behind them. And they've been able to do this because of the Supreme Court ruling. However, people should realize that in the long run, this is something that is so scary, it's unbelievable. Because what happens about out-of-country contributions? What happens about foreign nationals who control corporations? We won't even know where the money's coming from, who get their own people in so that they can then take advantage of America. Now, a worst case scenario is, how about there's companies, there's countries out there who are licking their chops right now, thinking about how stupid the American people are to let this happen, and in their democracy to accept this and not be completely outraged that they're just flying off the handle. And they want to have some changes made by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has sold us down the river with with what they've done here. Now, think China and think Russia with the amount of money that they have and that they could throw into our political arena. In a long-range scenario, they might be thinking maybe it's going to take them 5 years, 7 years, 10 years to get enough of their elected representatives handpicked and cherry-picked, and we don't even know who they're going to be, into our political system. Now, we have lost control of our Congress possibly, and who knows what else, because of the amount of money that they could throw into our political system, and we wouldn't even know who it was that was doing it. Now, imagine if they know they can't control and take over our country militarily right now, but if they can buy it politically they could then weaken us with our infrastructure, they could weaken us with our education, and most dramatically, they could weaken us with our military, because they can start under the guise of deficit reduction and under the guise of they want to put money into other aspects rather than military. You're going to have a whole lot of the people who jump on the bandwagon, and they will cut the military funding. They'll try to reduce the deficit. They'll try to balance the budget, and they will do it at the expense of our security and our intelligence and our military, to the point where over a few years, people think that this is being done to balance the budget and deficit reduction. But what it's really doing is it's weakening us and weakening us and weakening us to another point where now all of a sudden they can control us. They're controlling us militarily, economically, and politically. Now, these justices, I believe, were politically motivated. I'm going to say it right here that I believe that the Supreme Court justices acted politically, and I think that they think that it's going to help the Republican Party. But I think that they've opened a Pandora's box of ramifications that could happen in the next few years and in the years beyond that. And that the United States could lose its autonomy, we could lose our democracy, we could even lose control of our own country because of other money coming into this country buying our political process. Now, I believe that the Chief Justices who voted for this, I don't care what they quote as a rule of law and the reason why they did it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear their mumbo-jumbo legal gumbo. I don't want to hear any of that, because I know what they've done here, and they've sold us down the river. Now, I think that American people should be in absolute contempt of this, and I think that the justices should not only be held in contempt, but I think that they've created high treason against our country. And I think it was politically motivated, and I think that they have got to be removed from their office, because I think that they have abused their power, and America is suffering as a result.